Welcome to Art by Rick. I'm Rick. Today I'm going to do something very special. I'm going to do a triple blow. Now, why am I calling this a triple blow? Well, that is kind of the description and the technique of what I'm going to use. I'm going to kind of follow the, the patterns of three. So, this is a painting that's going to go across three canvases. Each one's going to be individual, but they're all going to be almost the same to make a nice triple blow painting. So as you can see in front of me, I have three white canvases. These three white canvases are approximately 12 inches wide and they're 24 inches long. They're all the same. It's white canvas stretched on a wood frame. They've all been pre-primed with acrylic gesso and they're ready to work on. Now, I'm going to also use three color paints to do this. I've chosen to use some blue, some green, and kind of a light mocha or tan color to give a little bit of contrast. I'll also add some white and black in there, but I don't really consider those colors because they're my neutrals. So three colors on the three canvases. Once I apply the colors, I'm then going to blow the colors in three different directions. So you have three canvases with three colors with a blow that goes in three different directions on those canvases. Now, how am I going to do this? Well, first I'm going to mix my paints. Now, you've seen me mix paints before here on Art by Rick. In this case, I'm going to do a little bit different of a mixture than what I normally do. This mixture is going to be a little thinner, a little more liquid, because I want the air that I'm going to generate to carry the paint across the canvases. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to use a very special tool, which I'll talk about in a second, in order to do that. The mixtures are going to be about a quarter cup of paint to probably twice as much acrylic medium and a little bit of water, mixed thoroughly in a cup and then poured onto the canvas in kind of a striping motion, and I'll demonstrate how to do that. Once I've layered those colors on the canvas, I'm then going to use what I've been talking right along, is a special tool. The special tool I'm going to use is a hair dryer. I like using hair dryers because I can put it on the cool setting and it gives me a constant flow of air in order to do my designs. Now, this is very similar to fluid art. In fact, it is a style of fluid art. It's like the ones that I've done on past shows. If you could see behind me on the wall, I have a couple of fluid art paintings that we did on the show a little while back, where we mixed our paints, half paint, half acrylic medium, and poured them on the canvas, and then rotated and tilted the canvas to get the paints to spread across. And as you can see, depending on the colors that you pick, the way you move the canvas, you can get interesting designs and squiggles and so on and so forth. You can go very light, like this one, which I called candy corn. You can go a little bit more bright, which is the next one over here. Or you can do something large like I have here on the canvas, which was darker colors. That's more subdued type colors. So it's kind of the same technique, but again, we're going to use a hair dryer in order to move the paint around the canvas. So let's start mixing some paints and getting ready to pour. So now we're ready to mix some paint. So my paints are laid out here in the colors that I talked about. I use my little cups. You've seen me use these several times on the Art by Rick show. I like these little cups because it gives me a little control. I use paper cups as opposed to plastic or glass. I like the paper cups because I can actually bend these to get a nice pour and more control. And then when I'm finished, I can just throw them away. So it makes cleanup a little bit easy. Again, I'm going to put the paint in the cup. I'm going to add my acrylic medium, which is just a thinning agent, and then I'll add a little bit of water, which I have here in a cup, and I'll mix these paints thoroughly, and then I'll begin to pour them on the canvases. So I'm going to start with my blue, I'm going to go through my green, do my mocha color or my light tan, a little black and a little white to add some contrast and give me some interesting designs. And then I'll put them on the canvas and I'll demonstrate how we do that. Now I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to mix all these paints because I don't want to have a lot of time showing you how I'm actually mixing it in the cup. You've seen me do that before. So let me mix my paints and then we'll go to the next stage of creating this triple blow design. Okay, so I've mixed my paints now in my little cups and I have them ready to start to pour onto these canvases so I can prepare to do the blow. One of the decisions you have to make when you're doing this is how you're going to apply the paint, because the direction that you apply the paint is going to kind of determine the direction you're going to blow it. So I'm going to do some striping, kind of almost like a tree branch where I'll go up the center about halfway, and then I'll branch out from either side. So again, I'm using threes, so it's going to be a 1, 2, 3 type of thing on each one of these canvases. And I'll pour the colors on each other, and you'll see as I blow it how they'll mix and they'll spread out. Now, the question came up, it's great to mix colors, but how do you know when it's properly mixed? Well, as I said, I use these paper cups. I put a little bit of paint in the bottom of the cup, about a quarter of a cup. I added the acrylic medium, or the thinner, and then I added just a few drops of water into each one. I used a tongue depressor, popsicle stick, whatever you want to call it, to stir the paint and get it mixed. And to make sure I'm mixing it really, really well, I count. I kind of think in my head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. Sometimes to 50, sometimes to 100, depending on the thickness of the paint. And the reason why I count, I found, is a good practice, because if you have white paint and you're pouring an acrylic white medium into it, it's hard to tell if the white paint is mixed properly because white on white is very hard to see. So unlike other colors where you put the color in the cup and then white medium on top of that and you mix it and you can see it mixed together until the color rises up and it all gets mixed, sometimes you got to count to make sure that you're getting a good mix as far as the colors are concerned. Now I'm standing back. I have the camera back to show the 3 canvases. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the paints onto the canvas in kind of that stick design, 3 different ways. And I will show you how I blow it. And because of doing the 3 canvases together, I'm going to start by doing this with the canvases laid this way in front of me. And then I'll bring the camera forward to kind of look at the painting itself while I'm doing the blowing technique. So I'm going to start with my base color, which is basically the blue that I've mixed pretty thoroughly. I'm using 3 blues here. Oh, before I even start doing this, it would be a good idea for Rick to put his apron on, because I'm going to be blowing paint and I do want to kind of protect my clothes a little bit from getting splattered with any kind of paint in case I get an overblow, which has happened to me before, but in this particular case it's going to be pretty controlled, so hopefully it won't. But one of the things that you'll learn if you do any kind of abstract painting is you do get very involved in the painting itself. So sometimes you're so concentrating on what you're doing with the painting that paint goes all over the floor, it goes all over the table, sometimes on you. My hands get messy because I'm concentrating on what I'm doing and not necessarily the backflow of the paint. So wear an apron or some kind of covering. Make sure that you cover your table. Make sure you have something on the floor when you're doing this. All right, so getting back to what I was saying, I have this blue paint. And there's only 1 cup of paint here, so I'm going to pinch the cup so I get a nice pinch on this. And I'm going to make a blue line kind of right up the center. A little more than halfway, maybe 3/4 of the way up the canvas. And I have mixed just enough paint to get me all 3 of these. And that's what I'm doing here. So I'm putting these blue stripes onto the canvas. And now I'm just going to take what's left of this and kind of go out a little bit. And I'm going to add more colors to this in a moment. All right. I'm going to do a little bit darker of a blue to make my branches. So I'm going out on the sides, out on the side, going out on the side here, and out on the side. I'll do the same thing here. It almost, you'll see when I prepare to do the blow, that it almost looks like I'm making a cactus design. Maybe, I guess, is the way to describe it, because it is 3 pieces of paint. If you hear that background noise, that's just my furnace going on, so it's nothing to worry about. Okay, so there's that paint. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the lighter. Again, I'm going right up the middle here. And I'm going to line it a little bit. So again, I'm doing 3 colors of blue on the canvas. All right, so I have my 3 colors of blue and so 3 colors on the 3 canvases. Now I'm going to do a little bit of green. And again, I apologize for doing these flat, but I need to see what I'm doing here. And I will bring the camera over so you can see. So I'm going to add a little bit of green, just as kind of a stripe going right up the middle of the blue. And again, I'm going up. And these paints are thin, so as they're sitting here on the canvas, they're starting to spread out a little bit, which is fine. Kind of connect these a little bit here. All right. So there's my green. And then I'm using my neutral color, which is the tan. Same kind of thing. I'm just going to pour drip right up the middle of the lines here. Again, just following my pattern. 1, 2, and 3. I mixed a little bit more of this than I wanted to, but that's all right. We'll use it up. That's good. Okay. Now I have some white paint here, and I'm going to go very thin on this. Just a little teeny streak, just a line. I don't want to go too much with the white because I don't want it to overwhelm the colors. So again, I'm drawing with the white. I'll probably put this cup aside because I'll have this to use on a different painting. Okay. All right, there we go. Let me put this behind me here. I also use a lot of paper towel when I'm doing my paintings. You see me make a big mess with my hands. All right, so now I'm going to use my black. And again, with black, like I always say, I go very sparingly with it. So I'm going to try and just make these very, very thin lines. very, very thin. I'll get this poured, and then I'll go and get the camera and bring the camera in so that you can see what I did. We'll focus maybe on the center one here, because I don't think I can get all three in the camera at the same time. All right, so now we've got our mixed pours on the canvases. I'm going to take a piece of paper towel here and put my sticks on them, because I will reuse these sticks at a future time. So let's just put those aside to clean for later. And we'll get our cups out of the way. Again, this is, like I said, it makes it really easy because I just stack them and put them right in the trash barrel. Okay, so now I've got my paints poured out the way I like them. And I'm going to start to blow these now in 3 different directions. So let me switch the camera around. I'll zoom into one of these paintings and I'll show you how I'm doing the blow. Okay, so as I said, I brought the camera in, and fortunately I was able to get all 3 of these canvases. Now, to you, the viewer, these canvases are upside down, and I'll turn these around once the blow is done and it's had a chance to set up. But I need to kind of put it in the direction that I work so I can see what I'm doing here. So I've poured the 3 colors. They've sat here while I was fooling around, setting up the camera and the whole bit, and they've spread a little bit, and that's fine. Sometimes I prefer to pour and then spread it right away while it's thin. So this might be a little bit thicker of a spread than what I normally do, because I have let these kind of spread out a little bit as they were sitting here. But it's still liquid enough where I should be able to blow this just fine. So I'm grabbing my hair dryer, which is basically a stick hair dryer that I use. Excuse the noise here. And I'm just going to start to blow these colors in different directions. So let's start over here. And we'll start to do our blow. And as you can see, I'm doing 3 passes. And I'm just blowing the paint so that it goes off the canvas itself. Sometimes it helps to walk around a little bit to get the right angle to get this to blow the way you want it to blow. Okay, so now we're going to hit this one. Again, I'm just blowing the paint on the canvas. And now we're over here to number 3. All right, so again, I don't mean to not be talking here, but I'm kind of just concentrating on the way that I'm blowing this. Just trying to get this paint spread out on the canvas. And again, I'm just blowing this to get that paint to spread on the canvas itself. Blowing it out, blowing it out. And just blowing it. And I find as I'm blowing this, if I get really close, I can get this paint to really spread. Because I do like it when it does go off the edge of the canvas. But sometimes, depending on how much paint you have on here, it's not going to quite make it. Now sometimes you have to cheat a little bit, use your finger to kind of get that paint to really get to where you want it to go. So that just kind of helps it spread a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to kind of use my finger to just get it to go to the edge. One of the best tools that you can possibly have is your fingers. There you go. And again, I'm just blowing away here. And I think we've gotten enough of our paint blown where it's not going to go anymore. All right. And again, I'm just kind of helping it on the edges here, just to make sure it gets off the edge. And again, we're just kind of bringing it off the edge of the canvas a little bit. There we go. Give it a little kind of a finished look. Okay, so now I've blown these 3 canvases. I'm using my fingers to kind of help the paint kind of go off the edge of the canvas just to give it a little bit of a finished look, making sure that I'm covering the bottom. They're very similar, but they are different. It all depends on how the paint wants to, play and how it wants to react. I got a little bit of an overblow on this one here, and I'll fix that before I show these to you. But very simple colors blown with a white background. I'm not going to do anything in the background of these. Once they've set up, I'll turn them around so that you can actually see what was done here. And we'll go from there. All right. Okay, so now I've turned the paintings around on my work table so you can see the way that they're going to be presented when they're hung on the wall. And I'm going to just, if you don't mind, I'm going to zoom in on the center one here, just so you can see. So we applied 3 colors of paint. We used black and white as a neutral. We made lines on the 12 by 24 canvas, and then we used a hairdryer to blow the paint in 3 different directions. Now you can interpret each one of these as a different type of thing. I look at it right away and I see a bird. That's what I see. I don't know if anybody else would see anything else, but pretty cool. So that's kind of what we have done today. And we'll go back to looking at the 3 of them together. All right, so there we are. 3 canvases, 12 by 24s, with our mixture of 3 color paint, blown in 3 different directions to make a very nice set to hang on the wall. Again, these are acrylic paints that I've mixed and I've thinned out using just a little bit of water and then using that hairdryer to blow them in different directions. So I'm going to call this finished. I'm going to let it set up till it's completely dry so that I can hang it on a wall in one of my hallways in my home. And I thank you very much for watching me. Next time we'll do something a little bit different here on Art by Rick. So have some fun, try some different things, paint. I'll see you later.
Follow us on Instagram at nutmeg.tv.